So let's do it.
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1. So welcome to this place, to this space. And I want to start by reading a poem that I wrote today as I finished listening to the album that you recommended. That is Charlie Haden and Pat Metheny's Beyond the Missouri Sky short stories, which was published on 1997. And today in the morning, I listened to it as deep as I could, and after that, I wrote this poem that I wanted to share with you, so that we can start the conversation with this. Birds singing at the end of time, bringing joy and peace as the eternal message. What would happen if we learned to communicate without words? How would it feel to listen without the ears, to see without the eyes, to smell with each cell in the body, walking together, side by side, giving space for each one to shine? There is no need to be the one in front. The goal lies in another place where there is no specific road, only the call that lies within yourself, the one that makes you vibrate when you listen to that particular song.
Nice. I like that. Were you familiar with any of those songs you heard?
No, no at all.
Interesting. Because many of those pieces have lyrics. And I like how you said that we don't need words sometimes. That's what yeah. Nice poem.
And actually, yesterday when I got the album, I saw that in the pictures of it there were lyrics, and I
Uh-huh.
was tempted to read them before
Yeah.
listening to it, but I said, okay, I will go with my mind blank and just listen to what comes, and I did not want to read them like between listening the album and this conversation, because it's also uh, I think that the album is without lyrics because of something, and the fact that you chose that one also speaks about that. So like my intention was to listen to it and then digest it with you in a certain way. So why don't you tell me why that album? What is special about it?
Well, it's funny. I because I was having a hard time picking an album for you, of course, because I have many I love. But that album, as you said, was published in 1997, and that was my senior year of my undergraduate degree in music composition. I graduated from the University of Idaho and changed my major 2 years prior to that to music composition. I was an education major. I wanted to become a music teacher in a school, and then I just decided, okay, let's get it more into like writing music and playing music. And I love Charlie Haden. I'm a upright bass player myself, and he's probably one of my biggest influences. And I didn't even actually realize that until many years later, until I produced an album of my own, and then a manufacturer of a amplifier company called Acoustic Image. I gave him my record, and he goes, "Oh, you sound like Charlie Haden," and I was like, "Holy crap, that's freaking cool!" Like this is like 10 years ago, but and it was like so neat to like, wow, I guess Charlie Haden really did leave an impression on me that I almost unconscious, that it was like, his sound, his tone, his pacing, and um, but this album is quite a romantic album. Beyond the Missouri Sky by Pat Metheny, Charlie Haden, and it's just freaking beautiful. Every song, every piece is like, wow, just really touches the heart, I think. And a lot of what that's why, like, I have a couple questions for you too, but just like, why did you listen to this, or did you know this tune before you, like the moon's a harsh mistress is one of my favorites on there, and that's a Jimmy Webb tune, and the lyrics are great. The lyrics, you'll hear the lyrics and you'll go, okay, yeah, this fits this music. I know you will. But I never knew the original. I only knew Pat's version, and that was like one. Then years later, like I think my mother or somebody was like, "Oh, that's a Jimmy Webb tune. It's a here. Check out the original." I was like, "Oh shit!" Like,
Wow.
so I love that. I love that about music. How it's you might hear a version of a song and realize it's a cover, but the cover might be more successful or more relatable to you than the original, and that's okay, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter who who uh, who reaches to you. I'm thinking of like All Along the Watchtower, Jimi Hendrix, but the
Yeah.
original composer was Bob Dylan, and yeah. So anyway,
Yeah. When I was listening today to the album, I tried to think or to put my attention on what the bass was doing, because I was thinking of you being a bass player, and how that the way that he plays could have shaped your decision of that album.
mhm,
And it was really interesting because the feeling that I got as I was listening to the album, I'm not familiar with like any music of Charlie, but I try to open my mind to what I was listening and try to understand it, because I'm not like a technical musical person or whatever. I just enjoy a lot listening to music, and try to find my resonance with it through just listening. I'm on my way of being more technical of understanding more, but right now I just enjoy it. So it was interesting to see him as a like a companion, or like the one that was holding the space for Pat's guitar at the beginning, and then like these other instruments coming in, and the whole journey that was the album, like changing from this like more intimate space at the beginning, and then transforming into something that was like more open.
mhm.
And then it was really nice at the end that it ended up like really small in a way, and with these birds
Yeah,
singing.
yeah.
And it was like, I cannot talk to you about specific songs because it was like a whole journey and I experienced it like that. So yeah, it was really nice. And I wanted to ask you, like, what is the role of the bass player in your musical journey, and as you as a bass player?
Well, I think the bass player is a supporter. I think it's a position of uh, giving support to the band. Giving it's a very it's a position of just having um, like my joke about bass is like, you notice us when we're not there. So
Yeah.
like if the bass if something, if like I have a cable that cuts out suddenly or something, people are like, what the hell's going on, where'd the bass go? It's like, well, I just didn't play for two measures. And so that's the I think you notice us when we're not there is my thing. But and that's got its own ego, of course, too. But it's it's a rhythmic instrument. It's a harmonic instrument. It can be melodic. It can, it can take solos and things like that. But it's also, it's just, it's the backbone. It's the foundation of a lot of music. You can play a C chord on a keyboard, C, E, G, and if the bass is playing C, okay, it's C major. But the bass could suddenly go to A, and now it's an A minor 7 chord, and you didn't change a thing in your keyboard. And that power is pretty freaking cool. It's like that's what the bass can do. It can change everything. So you have to have your shit together. It's like a lot of people, they think, oh, the bass is easier than the guitar because you only have 4 strings, or you don't have to play chords and all these things, or these melodic lines like Charlie Parker or Coltrane on saxophone would have to play these very fast phrases. And yes, they're very impressive, if you look at early jazz and things like that with bebop. But the bass has to be consistent, at least if you want to get a gig. if you want to stay in the band, you have to be consistent, and especially in jazz or music that's bass driven, I guess you could say. So yeah, I like it. I like the it's in the background. It's an instrument that feels good to me. I love the physical feeling of playing the bass. It vibrates the whole body when you play the upright bass, especially. I'm pointing behind me. Your listeners can't see that, but
Yeah.
I'll pluck it right now.
Yeah, it looks amazing in the back of
Thank
Tyler.
you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very physical feeling. I remember I had a student that was dealing with some anxiety and some issues with pain, and she would play her bass just to feel good. And I don't think she was even a great player. I think she had some intonation issues and this and that, but she just had this joy when she would physically play the bass. And she's like, "Oh, my back feels better. I'm more with it when I play this thing, and I feel better. I go about the day." And I'm like, "This is really cool." I remember this. This is like 20 years ago or something. I had this student, and it was anyway. So yeah, the bass is just yeah.
Yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking about the kind of music or the pieces of music that have gotten my like biggest attention, or the ones that have touched my core in a deepest way. And I have realized that they are the pieces where the music repeats itself, and the band is doing like the same thing over and over again, like for 2 minutes. And for someone that is playing electronic music and something that is driven by a computer, that is like pressing a button, but for someone that is playing the drums or the bass, like have the same exact rhythm for 2 minutes or for three or whatever, is something that requires a mental strength that it's really, really interesting to me. And when I listen to that with that thought in my mind, I say, wow, that that person has its shit together, as you said.
Exactly. Yes, it's a mental, physical consistency that you have to have. It made me one reason I just laughed just now is thinking about my Facebook quote or whatever is like, "I like long walks, dot dot dot," and that's a typical thing that used to be in like dating apps or something. Oh, I'm looking for a beautiful woman, and she must like wine and fine dining and long walks. But in jazz and bass worlds, it's because we like long form of playing long bass lines. So, but yeah, it's something I don't think about it that much as a like, oh, I'm a bass player and I like to play the same thing over and over again. It just kind of, it's part of the gig. It's part of what we do. We don't need that big spotlight as a
Yeah.
singer would need, or a soloist. We get a solo once in a while and that's cool, but that's not why I'm in the game.
Yeah. And I remember one gig that I went to see a band and I ended up speaking to the drummer. I'm the one that always goes to the band and ask like random things.
I'm
So
sure
I
you.
asked him like, can you explain to me the space where your being is at when you are like playing with the band, especially jazz, that is something that I think connects a lot with the core of being a human being, because it's away from something that you can learn, like uh, one piece after the next one. You
Yeah.
can improvise, and that's what calls my attention the most about jazz. Like that's why in the poem I wrote, what would happen if we learned to communicate without words, because
Yeah.
I was listening to this music, and when I listened to like jazz that was recorded live,
Uh-huh.
I get this feeling of communication but without words. And I'm always like really, really, really curious about where is like that space from where that communication comes.
Right.
Can you describe it?
Well, it's funny, JP. You recognize the core of what is so cool about jazz for me personally. It's a reaction music. Like, so the drummer does something with a cymbal, and then the bass player might, oh wow, maybe I'll react to that. It's like that's what's so freaking cool about it. It's like a organic, in the moment kind of music. I was just talking to somebody about this. My friend Scott Haskin, he's got his own podcast too, called the Haskin Cast podcast. Haskin Cast podcast. It's kind of a tongue twister, but and he's a drummer, and we were just talking about that. He's like, honestly, I don't like jazz much, but if it's live, I love it. Like, he doesn't like pre-recorded studio albums, kind of like the album we're talking about a little bit here, but he loves live jazz because it's in the moment. You can tell people are reacting to each other, and that's what I love about it too. It's like you can really hear that the more you listen to the music and get in tuned with the language,
Hmm.
where the language without words, and you get, the drummer's doing this heavy 2 and 4, and now the bass player's doing this pedal point on those same beats, and clearly they're reacting to each other, and it's kick ass when that happens. So um but that's um and this album we're talking about, it's interesting. There are no words, but a lot of these songs have words
Hmm.
associated with them. The Cinema Paradiso is a great piece as well, and that's from a movie. But anyway, yeah, we can take it wherever you want from here.
Oh yeah, I yeah. As I told you, I'm always curious about that like mental space, because I tend to think that the like language will not be a barrier in the future of humanity, because of all translation that is going on, and like these translation apps that they are developing with artificial intelligence. So I think that
Right.
language is not going to be a barrier for communicating between people,
Yeah.
and music is a language that is spoken by humans, because it's not something that you learn as you learn to speak Spanish, or Bengali or whatever language, it's something that comes like from the womb. I play music to my young Mila, and she is in the womb of my partner, and I'm sure that she understands it in a way that I don't understand, because I don't know where her mind is when she listens to it. But it's something that always amazes me about music, and that's why, like, I'm here talking to you, because I think that there is like an aspect of music that is not uh, shown yet to to the world, and when humans discover that, I think there will be some issues related to who we think we are,
Yeah.
to our ego, that will be left behind, and I'm excited about that future. I don't know what you want to say about that, but
No, that's cool. Like that's a very it's you're describing a deepness to music that's not always discussed as a thing. Like it's not like, I mean, we all can say, yeah, we love music. Yeah, that's great, but why do you love the music? Or what is it's almost like I could almost take this discussion and then take like a sound clip from the album we're talking about and go, that's the moment where you something happened to you, didn't it? And
Mm.
and maybe that's the thing we can't always explain to people, but there's a moment that the music went, oh wow, I can't even control what that happened. It just made me tear up, and I don't know why. I'm thinking about my,
Oh,
and I love
it's
it, right?
man, it's amazing, because as you were saying that, I was
Yeah.
remembering an album that I listened last week from
Yeah.
a Polish um, couple that it's amazing. I will send it to you later, and I will post it on the notes of this episode. But I remember a point in the album, like maybe 80% through it,
Uh-huh.
where the sax comes in, and I remember when I was listening, like my whole body was like bursting on fire and electricity, and it was amazing. And I think that is like the feeling that you are relating to, or not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. It's really amazing how that power is there. And even maybe like, I don't know, are you doing this thing where you're feeling your baby and like you play some music and then there's a change, maybe? I don't know, where they calm down a little bit, the kicking subsides a bit.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, like, is there any like moment in your musical career where you were playing live that you recall as one moment that you were like exploding on fire? Can you tell us about like that experience?
Well, I can. There's there's a tune on my album that which my jazz solo album called "Hear Me Now," that it's called "The One That Got Away," and I've used this tune. It's kind of funny because I wrote it about a girl. My wife's in the other room. I don't want her to hear this. No, she knows. No, it's like um, it kind of had romantic roots to it, But I've also used it for I've played it at a memorial service for a friend of mine that died, another bass player. I've also dedicated it to a friend's mother who died at another
Wow.
musical showcase. Yeah. And that's okay, but I'm like, okay, I've used this about 3 or 4 times for events, and I'm like, I got to stop using the same damn song for this. But anyway, people seem to like it, and I don't know why. I'm very influenced by Pat Metheny, Charlie Haden, the guys we're talking about, and there's actually moments in the song that I wrote that are almost like identical notes that Pat wrote, and I wasn't even conscious of this, and I can't believe I'm even telling you this right now, but it's kind of like a like he would do the same damn thing that I just did, and that's
Mm.
okay. But but um but people seem to resonate with that piece, and I like that. I like that, you know, you can say, well, this song is dedicated to your mother that passed away, and I care about you, and I love you, and I want you to know that these notes belong to you right now. And there's something about that feeling of just maybe a setup, I guess you could say, and then delivering the music, and then you're just like, oh wow, this is just for me. But your question about a specific thing, I think it's just been that song, the one that got away. I've dedicated it a couple times, and it's gone the right way with my
Mm.
intention with it. So um, it's almost like, you know, am I pulling a fast one on these people? Like, I mean, I don't know. I think it's intentionality is what it's all about. You know, so if you write a song, um, and dedicate it to a person in a way, it can really come across as a good thing. Um, but and now we're getting into like live music. That's what I love about playing music live. It's just, hey guys, I wrote this song. You announce it. You announce what it was for originally, and then the audience goes, oh, okay. And then like after the show or something, they might say, I really like that song that you dedicated to blah blah blah, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot I did that, but it touched you, and that's important to me. That's
Mm.
neat how that happens, you know. um but yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking when you said intentionality, and I remember a concert that with my partner we went to see in Santiago,
Hmm.
and in one moment the guitar player, his his wife was drawing on her iPad, and
Uh-huh.
the drawing was being displayed like in the show, so it was like live. uh, I don't know how to say it, but
The drawing
you,
in real time.
yeah,
In
yeah, you get the
Wow.
idea, or no?
Wow.
And it was his wife, and they have had a baby 2 months ago, and the guy says, so now this tune that I'm going to play is dedicated to my daughter that was born 2 months ago, and here is Sol, my wife, and this tune comes from my love for my daughter. And when I listened to that, like my whole perspective of how I was experiencing the music was transformed, because I was able to like try to understand where it came from,
uh,
and that brought into the experience something completely different. And yeah, that's something that is really special about live music, and it's really hard to bring it to other place.
yeah, yeah, it's neat to, I think a lot of people want that connection to the song and why it was written, and if it was inspired by something deeper than just the notes on the page, you know. Like, I mean, we can all, I mean, it I definitely like to get into that place where it's like I want to know what the
Mm.
hell's going on. Like if somebody wants a piece written, like, and dedicated to them or something, I want to know the background. And so anyway, that's cool. uh that's a neat concept, you know, the drawing live like that. That's very cool.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. And how has it been like to not be able to play for this long in front of people
Shitty.
for you? Shitty?
Very shitty.
How would you describe it in 3 words? Very, very shitty.
Very, very shitty. Yeah, it's I've done a few gigs recently, some freelancing in Vegas here, and it's been picking up here and there. But I miss the connection and talking to people and playing in front of people. I just did a convention gig last Monday at the Mandalay Bay at a bar. Sorry, a corporate gig, I should say, where it was like just people in a business meeting. Um, People weren't wearing masks. I was wearing my mask. I'm vaccinated, but it was like, okay, this is weird. Like very close together, but they were dancing. It was a singer, keyboard player, and then I was playing the big bass, and it was cool. Like people came up to me, "Oh, sounds great, man, sounds great," and they were dancing and just in the moment and having a good time. And I was like, okay, I miss this. I had that feeling of I miss this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been weird. I've gone through some real ups and downs with just should I freaking get a degree in technology or teaching and just find a new path because I'm in my mid 40s and I just kind of like it's weird because some friends have done that. Some have gotten a real estate license, some have gone back to school to study technology or some other kind, not even music related, just law. and and it's like and they had a real passion to do that, and I haven't been. I've toyed with it, I've Google searched it, but I haven't like said, oh, my heart is going to go into this other thing. I'm like, no, let's stick with the music thing for a little bit. And luckily my wife she's a full-time musician and she's in a show in Vegas here, but she's been very supportive of me and just saying, Tyler, she actually just said it yesterday. She's like, treat this time as like a sabbatical. Treat this time as you've always wanted to work on these original projects and work on your bass chops and this and that. So, which is what we all want, right? Like, I mean, you want a supporting partner that's going to say, I love you. And it's not always about the money and the bills. I see your passion. I see you for what you want to do. So, yeah, but yeah, to get to your point, yeah, I miss playing.
Yeah. And yeah, talking about the supportive partner and like finding your way through the hard times. I have been there also, and finding the energy or the motivation to pursue your like deepest will or goals. It's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So that I listen to what you say and the struggle that it means, especially in this time that the future is so uncertain, and things are starting to open up and then they close and we have like this uh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. I know the Delta variant is terrible. How's it been there where you're at? Are you near Santiago or where are you at right
I
now?
am 1,000 kilometers south from Santiago.
Okay.
I Yeah, I live in a city called Puerto Varas,
Okay.
where my family original is from my mother's side, and it's interesting also because my grandfather had a music store in downtown here in my small town.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he was the music dealer here, and
The dealer. Yeah.
yeah, actually today when I was going to listen to your album, I light up a candle in his memory also because I always think about how amazed he would be if he had the opportunity that I have now of like pressing a button and playing whatever album I want
Wow.
in the world. It's like this day and age that we live now, it's just amazing because of that, because of the access of content that we have.
It really is. Yeah. It really is amazing. And that access is always easier and easier, but then so there's like almost like this weird juxtaposition of more access and then less gigs or less opportunities
Mhm.
for some of the younger players. So but because I miss the days, I mean, I'm quite a bit older than you, I think, but I miss the days of going to the record store and being excited about a new album and buying it and looking at it and touching it, seeing the artwork, reading the lyrics. Oh, it's produced by this person and mixed here, and but we don't have that as much with the streaming worlds, you know.
Mm.
Was it a music store your grandfather owned, or was it like instruments and things, or was it like
No, he sold like records.
records? Oh, cool, very cool.
Yeah, yeah, I get what you say about the joy of discovering
Yeah,
one, like one of the I would say like the biggest joys that I have is when I find music that I don't know anything about, and I listen to it and it's like, wow, this is something that I like.
yeah.
And now with all this access, it is easy to transform that access into noise, and
Mhm.
like filtering out that noise is really really hard.
Yeah, yeah. It is. You have to filter. That's a great word for it. You have to be intentional and say, I'm going to listen to this record. Like, I love your concept for this podcast, by the way. It's great. Like, I'm going to listen to a record. I'm going to take my time and listen to it. It's like it's very intense. I mean, your emails to me were very warm and like oh, this guy's really, this is a neat thing, you know. That I don't know of anybody really doing it this way. You might hear a podcast where it's an album review, or I'm thinking of like KNPR has Sound Opinions and they review up and coming artists, or Tiny Desk concerts on NPR. And it's like, but you're like going, no, I'm going to listen to a whole album and then ask you why you like it so much. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like, nobody, I don't know of anybody doing that. So
Fuck
kudos.
playlists. Really,
Call it
I
fuck
hate
playlist.
playlists.
Fuck
Yeah,
playlist. I love
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I
I
know.
al-
Yeah, man. You're right. Yeah. It's like, why? I mean, a playlist is cool if you're going on a long road trip and you know the other person you're sharing it with. But yeah.
that's why sometimes I feel that like that sensations that you were talking about where music is going to.
Hmm.
I think that playlists have something that impacts there, because when you listen to a whole album, there is a cohesion between one song and the next one, and there is like a musical frame that goes through the album. And in the playlist, you are listening to Bob Dylan, and then you're listening to Janis Joplin, and then you're listening to this other thing, and there is no connection between them. And the musical experience itself is much shallower, much more shallow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, it is radio, right? Radio is based on that concept, though. It's like, here's a hit by Janis Joplin, here's a hit by Jimi Hendrix, and whatever year it is, they're all putting out their best stuff. But you, obviously, you're just like, no, I want the whole story. I want to know why that song goes into the next song. And that's pretty cool. That's old school, man. I like that.
Yeah, let's bring the old school back, man.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's like it's something I don't actually you're making me want to listen to music differently again because it's like I miss that too. I now this album, this Pat Metheny and Charlie Haden album, I can think of like I know that when one song ends, I'll probably know what the next song is. I just like okay, as it's fading out, and that's an interesting concept too. Is like why did you put this song next? Is it because you ended on a dominant 7 chord and it's going to go to the next song, and you know if you're ending on a G7, the next tune goes to C, and it
Mm.
sounds great, and now I almost want to do that. I almost want to like check out each song's tonality, key signatures, and where they're going. And a lot of times it's based on the style too, or the you know if it's a you got 2 fast songs, then a slow song, then a waltz, and then another fast song. So a lot of albums will do that, especially in jazz. There'll be a variety of tempo changes and things like that. But you're right. This is not discussed. This is not like the kids need to wake up to this shit.
Yeah, I that's what I told you. Like today I was listening to this album and it started like in this place and then it transitioned to another place where this new instrument came in that I was wondering like what is making that noise and I could not I didn't know, and then it ended up like fading away, and I think that that is at least for me it's a much better use of my limited time that I have in this earth because I only have time for listening to a certain kind of no certain amount of albums
Uh-huh.
because I will die in who knows how many years more. But since there is so much music right now that you can access, this is the way that I have been able to filter it, and it works great. It's kind
Super
of
cool.
bringing the record store into the digital era in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're onto something with this. I think it's very important. Like it's a yeah, kudos.
Hmm. Okay, sounds like interesting start. I it was interesting when I was writing down before you came in.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking about how we started developing as humans, fighting for our life and struggling to stay alive,
Yeah.
and like not being eaten by a tiger or whatever.
Right.
and and right now we are in a stage where we are fighting with ourselves and our own uh, image that we have for ourselves, because
Right.
I was waiting for this conversation and I felt nervous because I was going to do something that um, impacts my ego, because I don't know how it will end up. I don't know how the conversation will unfold, and it's interesting to see where we are as humans. Like right now, the problems that we have are related to the image that we have of ourselves, not like being eaten by a tiger.
True. And showing up and just putting ourselves out there is it's kind of tough. Like because I mean, you seem like a pretty humble guy. Like you seem like you don't want to just like, hey, look at this picture of me and Tyler talking on this podcast on Instagram and look at what cool clothes we're wearing and my cool background or you know, you're not into that the superficial stuff. And I think that that's like, I was thinking about this actually just the other day, how just it's hard to just show up and share things because the ego is like, I don't like doing it personally. Like I feel like even with my own podcasting or something, like why am I have to share it? I just published an episode, and then but then I'm like, I'm not good at feeling good about it all the time. But then I get great feedback. I'll get like family members or a friend or two saying, "Hey, I really liked that episode. That was cool. Thanks for sharing it." I'm like, "Okay, thank you, thank you for." But it's like, why is it so much work to do that? And like, I don't want to overshare. Do I share like once a week, twice a week? And there's all these like things, and some people just, they don't give a shit. They just share all the time, and that's annoying to me. Like, I don't need to see your, like a couple singers in town. I won't mention their names, but like see their boobs all the time, and like, it's not even about the music. It's just like, hey, look at how great I am, and look at me with this person, and it's like, yeah, show me that how you know the tune, or sing the bridge correctly on that freaking chart. Like, so yeah, and it's like talking years ago with our grandparents, and they didn't have this instant access to media and sharing. So you're taking the sharing and getting to the deeper part of it with albums, and that's really cool. That's like, we don't have that right now. We have playlists. We have one-off TikTok clips that are just like, nobody, there's no connection to the music. And I feel like that's where you're kind of going with this podcast. I hope. I mean, it's like, just like, hey guys, there's still meaning behind all this that we're trying to do here. So, but yeah.
Yeah, and that connects me with something important also about albums. That is the fact that I always write down the date where they were released when I listen to them, because
Mhm.
if I was listening to it 20 years ago or now, like the music itself, the content would be the same. and
Yeah.
and that's what calls me the attention about the nature of time, because I think that in the space that I was talking to you at the beginning of the episode, like what is the space where you are at when you are playing, I think
Yeah.
that space is timeless, and I can connect to that space with a playlist, you know.
Right.
But listening to Charlie Haden and Pat Metheny, I can, because there is something uh, beneath the experience itself.
Yeah.
And I think that it's related to intention also, to the intention of, one, the people that created the album, and like the people that were around that process, and two, the intention that was behind you sharing that particular album, and three, the intention that I put when I sit down and play the album and say, okay, I'm going to play this with all this in mind and try to enjoy it. At the end of the day, it's enjoying it, man.
That's super cool. Yeah, I was thinking just as you just said that, like, I'm sharing this with you're one of a few people that really know that I love this album so much. I mean, there's my wife, there's a couple other musician friends, but it's probably a handful, like 3 or 4 people that know. But you will say, "Oh yeah, like, if I die in 2 years or something, oh, Tyler loved that album." Like, that's pretty heavy. That's pretty deep, and neat. That, like, wow,
Mm.
it's so.
Yeah, and as I wrote to you in one of the emails, I think that the like choosing a favorite of something is a really tough process, but why you choose a particular thing speaks a lot about who you are in the bottom of your being. And today we were going to record this, and my partner was really like excited about me finally doing this. And when she woke up, I was playing the album like for the second time in the speakers of the house, and we were having breakfast, and she was like, holy shit, I really like this.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, and she was like, I love it, man, it's really nice. And then I was like, yeah, you know, it is the album that Tyler shared with me. And she was like, hey, he must be a cool guy if he shared this. So
That's cool. That's super cool. Is
yeah,
she a
so
musician too? Does she play or does she sing or?
no, we are both like the same. We are people that love music and enjoy it. And
Yeah, super cool. That's super cool. Yeah, I love the record. I just think it's just a beautiful record. Um, I'm trying to think of like if I have a favorite track on there. Probably The Moon's a Harsh Mistress or something like that is my favorite. But um, the sound, the um, there was something I think you alluded to earlier about how there might be some other instrumentation that just kind of comes in there. And I think they did add some strings or some keyboard sounds. And I remember not hearing that the first few times I heard the record, but then
mm,
later hearing it and going, "Oh, that's not guitar, that's not bass, that's something else in the mix." And it was kind of cool to discover it later, like as a, oh, it just belongs there, but it wasn't like in your face. Like here's now we're in a club remix version of the song. It's just very
mm.
subtle and beautiful, and yeah, I've definitely taken that kind of aspect of subtle instrumentation and adding it to my own music and just going, it's okay, it's okay to add that sweetener to it. But what's a favorite tune for you on the record, JP?
It's like layers, and adding like these layers on the back
The
of what
layers.
is happening. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, my favorite tune. I cannot say it. I don't recognize any particular piece of it. It was like a when I listen to music, I try to unplug my conscious brain
Uh-huh.
and just like experience it without judgment. So I don't really know. I don't really have an answer to your question because I don't know.
Yeah. Cool.
There is no song that I would add to the playlist because it doesn't exist.
You don't like playlists, I take
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Cool stuff, man.
yeah, man. The word that I take home right now is consistency, and I will remember you playing the bass on the background with consistency and staying with the shed together. I think that is something really important of what you said. So thank you for this space, man.
Absolutely. This is great, man. I love the concept of your podcast. This is great.
I will share with you the albums that people in the future share, so that you can enjoy and discover how
Yeah.
this unfolds. This is the first stepping stone, but I will continue to like reach out to people and say, hey, do you want to jump into a random conversation with a random guy and see what happens?
Yeah. That's cool, man. Very cool. Did you have any other questions about this album or any thoughts?
No, I, I thought about like doing like research and thinking about what questions I would want to ask or whatever. But then I said, no, fuck it. Let's see what happens
I love it.
and and see where it goes. So
Cool.
not put too much pressure on it and just enjoy like your presence and appreciate it. I really appreciate that you have been here this time and also the thought process behind like choosing that particular album and like what I will have more in my heart is like the moment today when I sat down and listened to it because it was important. And thank you for that.
You're very welcome, JP. This was fun. I really think you're on to a awesome concept here. This is great. So fuck playlist.
Fuck playlist. Yeah, I'm gonna change the name.
That's that could be funny actually. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool, man. Well, let's yeah, if you have any other questions or you want to reach out again, well, you know where I am. So
Thank you, brother.
all right, take care, buddy. Right.
I really hope that live gigs come back soon so
Thank
that
you.
you can go there and do what you love and stay true to that, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And I hope that everything goes well with the baby coming next month. You said a month away, huh?
Yeah.
Great, man. Exciting. All right,
Okay.
JP. Have a good day, man.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.